Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build will be the Deathseal Lich Minion build. Now with this, it should go into patch 8.2 with no difficulty. There shouldn't be anything that changed that would nerf this build. We're not wearing 4 1x4 idols, so none of that should matter. Now this build was completely based behind the concept of being able to run Deathseal along with wearing Ensanguius and Last Steps to the Living to run a ward build. Now the reason this doesn't work if you use Deathseal on yourself is it makes it to where you can't have any ward, and if you're running a low life build with Ensanguius and Last Steps to the Living, if you don't have any ward, you don't have any life, you just get one shot and you die. They don't really synergize together. So what we did is we made Deathseal instead be cast on our minions. Now to capitalize on damage, since our minions are not going to do a whole lot of damage in Lich form, most of the damage it's better to play as a Necromancer, we wanted to also use the damage increase inside of Deathseal. However, it proved to be better to instead run the Hungering Souls. So we wanted to do Hungering Souls and make Hungering Souls do as much damage as possible, and Hungering Souls does the most damage when you have exactly 3 minions. So we're going to be running 3 archers. We're going to cast Deathseal on the archers. The archers will have Death Wave going off, which will be based off of our damage, but now all we have to do is run around and dodge things while Deathseal, kills everything that tries to get close to your minions, and then Hungering Souls will be firing off almost 3 times per second and doing about 50k crits against the training dummy and doing, 5 to 10k crits against enemies, which is a lot of damage. So it allows for quick clear, but that's only while Deathseal is active, which is about 66% of the time. So you run around, you cast Deathseal on your archers, and you yourself stay in Reaper form and just kind of keep reaping around, casting Rip Blood to gain ward off of your minions. You have really good survivability since you're ward based, you're generating that. You don't need to do any hits or stop moving, you just keep running around yourself. And Deathseal is also an insta-cast, so you literally don't have to stop to do anything except cast Rip Blood when you want to. And you'll have Transport for movement, so Transplant will be moving you around. You'll have high mobility, high survivability, and your minions with Hungering Souls and Death Wave will be doing really good damage. So let's go ahead and get into it, the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Deathseal, Summon Skeleton, Aura of Decay, Hungering Souls, and Reaper form. And I know the first thing going through your mind right now is, how are you running a Deathseal and a low life build and Reaper form all in the same build? We'll get into it. We finally made it work. So for Deathseal, we have Deathseal set up to do as much damage as possible. It's going to have a huge wave area, have the wave go off as much as possible. It's also going to fire off Hungering Souls about 3 times per second, and it will only be targetable on your minion, which means it won't actually be affecting you, which means your ward will not get capped. The other important thing to note is there are 22 points in this skill. You only need 20. You don't even need the full 22. It just helps we increase the area. It helps increase the frequency. You can take those points out, 1 of each, 2 out of 1 of them. It doesn't matter. But for this, we have it set up. First, we want to target our minions. We got 2 points in Moratorium and 1 point in Seal of Servitude. Now, I did test out the 5 points in Frenzy Accord for that 300% increased minion damage and minion crit chance, but our minions don't do that much damage on a Lich, just because we're not really built into the Necro tree at all. There's just not very much damage, so we went ahead and took those out, and we focused on Deathseal's wave instead, because the Death Wave is doing a lot more damage, because it's still based on our damage, even though it's being cast technically from the minion. So we're still getting the same Death Wave damage we would have if we were using it, but now we don't have to have it on us, which means we can have a ward build. We have 1 point in Devouring Release. This makes it to where when Death Wave is active, or Deathseal is active, you will have Hungering Souls cast every second. With 5 points in Insatiable Soul, that becomes about every 0.4 seconds, with a 200% increased frequency. So you're going to be getting almost 3 of them per second. And because this automatically limits you to a single Hungering Soul projectile, it means in the Hungering Soul tree, we can go ahead and take the solo projectile to get a lot more hit damage out of it. We got 5 points in Corrupted Consciousness. This is to unlock the Moral Pulse, which means we'll get a Death Wave every second. 4 points in Tachycardia makes it to where this wave comes out 45 or 48% more frequently, so you're going to get the wave a lot more often, and it has a much higher crit chance. And then we have 3 points in Carrion Breath, so that has 105% increased area, which doesn't make it quite full screen, but what's going to be fun is when you run around, your minions are behind you, you cast it on your minions, and as they run behind you, they're going to just clear everything. That death wave will just automatically clear, and you'll have Hungering Souls firing off, hitting everything that doesn't get killed by the death wave, which is really cool. Then we have Summon Skeleton. Now you have to build Summon Skeleton a very particular way because you only want 3 minions. Not less, not more. It's got to be exactly 3 so that we can get 150% more hit damage out of Hungering Souls. So with Summon Skeleton, we've got 3 points in Necrotic Conviction, 1 point in Hollow Walkers, and 1 point in Dread Phalanx. What this does is this halves the total amount that we can have total. Now, we have Hollow Walkers, which means we have +1. You have 3 skeletons by default. This brings it to 4. Then we have 4 points in Unholy Rage and 1 point in Marrow Walkers. This brings it to 5. Half of 5 is 2.5, but it rounds up. So this means you are limited to 3 minions. Then we went with 1 point in Marrow Tap and 2 points in Empty the Graves so that you will summon all 3 at once. So how this works is you only have to cast Summon Skeleton once, you get 3 minions. If you recast it, it just replenishes those 3 minions. You can't go over it. So if one dies off, you just recast the skill, you're back to 3 full life minions. And what this does is it means that you're going to make sure you're at 3 minions at all times, so you get that 150% more damage with Hungering Souls. We then also have 1 point in Lone Guardian and 1 point in Mightier Than the Sword to make sure that it's only archers that we're summoning so that we can have some ranged attacks. And then the last 5 points go in Sweeping Strikes, so they do 60% more damage. The minions themselves will not do very much damage. We're not really built into them. We don't even care about their survivability because you can just instantly recast all 3 of them. What we do want is for enemies to go for them, so when we put the death wave on them, or Deathseal on them, the death wave will kill minions in their vicinity, as the minions that get close will be killed by the wave, and the Hungering Souls will shoot out and home in and destroy them. Then we have Aura of Decay, and Aura of Decay you have to run in this build if you want to stay in Reaper form. So the way Reaper form works, you decay your health over time. If you have Ward, it doesn't matter. So let's refresh here. If you have Insanguis and Last Steps of the Living and you're running a low life build, you have a lot of Ward but you have no health, correct? When you run Reaper form, it has health degeneration, it decays, and when you hit 0, you transform back into your normal Acolyte self. If you have Ward, it bypasses that. You don't die, it just takes you out of Reaper form and puts you back into your Lich form, and so even if you have Ward, it doesn't matter. So you need to have some sort of way to get your health up, but you don't want Leech as a low life build because then you don't have Ward generation, and there would be no point in trying to have Insanguis and Last Steps of the Living. So to counteract this, we take Aura of Decay and we put the 4 points in Absence of Life so that you're healed every second for 12% of your missing health. Now, 4 points might be a little too much. You can play around with it. I like the 12% because it kind of allows us to stay in as long Reaper form as possible. But if you go too high with it, if you have healing effectiveness, if you go too high, you'll heal too much life, and then you have less ward generation. So you kind of want to keep yourself at low life, but you want to be healed enough to where that you can heal again before the decay goes to 0. And this keeps you at a very low, you'll be balancing between 200 and 400 life in your Reaper form, but it will keep you in Reaper form, and then you have all that ward generation, that 5,000 ward that you'll have. That's what enemies will be attacking, so you can stay in Reaper form for a very long time as a low life build. This also means that you'll benefit from all the low life damage increases that you get out of the passive tree and other sources. The other thing is you cannot have Aura of Decay poisoning you because this will kill you really quick. It'll work down all of that ward that you're trying to generate, so we have it set up to be an armor shred, which is the normal way that people kind of play Aura of Decay now. So we also got 3 points in Chill to the Bone for chill chance. We got 4 points in Undertow for slow chance. 3 points in Corrosive Aura for shredding enemy armor. 1 point in Decrepify so that we no longer poison ourselves or enemies. We now just do armor shred. We got 4 points in Plague Rat for 60% increased area. And 1 point in Inoculation so we take 5% less poison damage. Then we have Hungering Souls, which is our main damaging skill. We have 5 points in Ravenous for that spell necrotic hit damage. We have a bonus 30 flat damage. 2 points in Grey Bond gives us 30% more damage as long as we have at least one minion. Then we have 3 points in Unholy Trinity that gives us 150% more damage if we have exactly 3 minions, which is why we have exactly 3 skeletons set up. Then we got 1 point in Necrotic Pact for more base necrotic damage. 1 point in Isolation, which gives us 100% more hit damage and 100% more size, limits us to 1, but we were already limited to 1 because that's all Deathseal will actually fire off. Then we have 4 points in Great Soul, which is another 100% hit damage, 80% more size. This increases the mana cost, however, the Hungering Souls that are procced out of Deathseal don't cost mana, so we don't care. Then we have 2 points in Piercing Gaze for base crit chance with it, and 2 points in Hungering Eyes for more critical strike multiplier with it. So we're going to make the Hungering Souls hit really, really hard, and we're going to be firing off 3 of them per second, and it costs no mana. It's a win-win-win. Then for Reaper Form, we have Reaper Form set up to boost our damages, and it's a second free life for us. So even if you're in Reaper Form, the moment that all that ward actually finally gets eaten up and you get hit out of Reaper Form, you start again at full life in your Lich form. So you basically get a whole free life out of this setup. Then we got 4 points in Mistress of Decay, 4 points in Harbinger of Blood, 1 point in Reaper's Ascendance, 4 points in Soul for a Soul, and 4 points in Reaper's Curse. There's also 3 points in Death Touch to give you more necrotic base damage for your for all of your attacks and spells that you do while you're in Reaper form. And then for passives, we got 20 points in the base Acolyte class with 7 points in Blood Aura, 5 points in Blood Pact, and 8 points in Forbidden Knowledge. No points in the Necromancer, no minion support, and then 93 points in the Lich Mastered class with 8 points in Crippling Insight, 8 points in Survival of the Cruel, 8 points in Dance with Death. This works great for us because as a tripled effect at low life, we will always be at low life. 5 points in Grasp of Fate for that 60% necrotic damage, 1 point in Hollow Lich so that all of our health leech now gets converted to more damage at a 10-time value, which is perfect because we don't want leech. We'll be running low life the entire time and have plenty of ward generation. We then have 8 points in Unclosing Wounds for more damage, 8 points in Apocrypha for more intelligence as well as spell damage, 5 points in Deathbringer, 5 points in Dark Guard, 5 points in Clairvoyant Insight, 10 points in Necrotic Energy, 2 points in Wands of the Fallen, 5 points in Ageless Ascetic, 5 points in Soul Maul, and 10 points in Mind over Body. Then for our items, for our idols, we are running Increased Health, Flat Health. You can also do this on all 1x2, so we just want more health. That's really the most important thing here. Just get as much health as you can, so that way these are all going to fit into 8.2 when the idol is all changed and the shaping of it. You'll be able to fit it. We don't want to really run any 1x4s, but if you can fit some 1x4s in, or if you do want to, increase damage while transformed, increase spell damage while at low life is going to be your best bet. Throwing 4 of these on is going to increase your DPS, but of course in 8.2 you'll only be able to wear 2. But again, you want more life. Survivability is going to be the name of the game because you do plenty of damage. Then we also wear 2 uniques. We will have Inzanguis and we will have Last Steps of the Living because this is indeed a low life build. I'm just going to hover over the rest of these. You can go ahead and go down to the description. There'll be a link to the written guide. The written guide will have links to the build planner, loot filter, everything that you would need. You'll find this there, and you can go in, edit it, do whatever you need in order to perfect the build. And then for blessings, I'm also just going to hover over these. None of them make or break the build. You can do anything that you want with the blessings, but necrotic damage, shredding necrotic resistance is some of your best bets for damage. And then for the character sheet, as you can see, we've got about 2,300 life. A lot of that's coming from idols. You don't have to cap your resistances, but again, capping them is obviously going to increase your survivability. So just do what you can with them. You generate so much ward per second, and you have so much, especially when you break that 2,000 health barrier, because you have so much int. On this build, we have 85 points of int. You can get much more. You can break 100 points of int if you get some tier 5 affixes on a lot of the gear, but you get so much through passives. You can have like 55 just from passives and having the implicit on your catalyst alone, that there's really so much ward retention that you'll just have a lot of ward naturally as a Lich or an Acolyte or Necromancer in general with the low life setup. We also have a lot of damage, as you can see. Just sitting here, a lot of that obviously is from converting our Leech into global damage, but we're sitting at about 704% spell damage, and of course for necrotic damage we have almost 700% as well, and the big one, our critical strike multiplier, is really high at 366%. So here's where the build really takes off. We're going to go ahead and summon our 3 skeletons. So just with one click, you can summon your 3 skeletons. Boom. You got 3. If I do it again, you just get 3 again, and they're all at full life. You can't go over 3. Every time you click it, we'll put you right at 3. You don't have to worry about being under 3. If one dies, you just summon it. Boom. You're at 3. All of them have full life. Now here's where it gets good. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the character sheet so that you can see this. If you run Reaper form, what would normally happen in a low life build, so right now if I run Reaper form, I go in it, you notice my life starts ticking down, and then boom, we're already out of Reaper form. Reaper form is gone. Why? Because we ran out of life even though we had ward. So what we're going to do is, we're going to have Aura of Decay healing us, not enough to really, make us lose the ward, but enough to where we can stay in Reaper for a really long time. So if I go ahead and activate Aura of Decay, and that's all you do, activate it, leave it, you never have to touch it again. You'll notice that I had 5200 ward, but we're starting to lose some of that. We're not going to have 5200 ward anymore. We're going to sit lower, roughly just above 4000 ward, because my health is now a little bit higher and we're not generating as much. I'm actually sitting around almost 4500 here. Really depends on the healing. But the other part of what you're going to get here is now when you go in Reaper form, we'll go again, you keep bouncing around. And when mobs hit you, they're going to be hitting you. They can't bypass the ward. So they're hitting the ward, which you will be generating. So we are officially running a Reaper form with ward. Now this is huge. Now what normally happens is people at this point will use Deathseal. And if you use Deathseal, it caps it to where you can't have any ward. That's a problem, because that's what this whole build is based on. If you don't have ward, you have such little life and it's capped, you're going to die really quick or get knocked out of Reaper form, because it's only going to take like one hit. Only a few hundred damage is all that you have to take. So instead, we're going to cast Deathseal on our skeletons. So then we just cast Deathseal over here. You'll notice those Hungering Souls just start flying out. You're getting about 3 of those per second. They're critting for 60k damage here, and the death wave is all based off your damage to where it's hitting that huge wave and just going to kill everything. So as you run around, they're going to run with you, and all you're going to do is drop Deathseal on them whenever it is active. So, which you only have about 66% of uptime with it, but it's enough for it to, clear everything out, and it's just going to hit for really good damage. You have all of those Hungering Souls coming in that are going to be hitting the target. So again, you're not really doing any damage yourself. However, with Death Wave and all of your damage is being used with Hungering Souls and Death Wave to really do a lot of damage. So that's how this build works. You'll notice I'm still in Reaper form. Now you won't stay in Reaper form forever. It won't happen. Eventually our decay will get so fast we won't heal enough life in that 1 second and we will be knocked out. But then you just wait for the cooldown and get back into it. When you get knocked out, you're still going to have all of that ward. This 4900 ward, this 5000 ward we have here, you get to keep that when you get knocked out, which is good. That means you, oh, there we go. We got knocked out. Our life was full, but it drains really quick. We still have that 4000 ward, just like that. So very high survivability, and it allows you to stay in Reaper form. Obviously not forever. It was about 1 minute that we stayed in it there, but that's enough to run an Echo, or to, go through a boss fight, or to run 5 waves in the arena, let it come out, and then go back into it when it's time for the next set. So that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope it was easy to follow. The interactions are a little wonky. You have to build into it a bit to get it to work. You do need to have a lot of life so that you can get a lot of ward. That's with any low life build. But again, it works really well, and then this is just with a one-handed weapon. You're getting really good damage out of it. Your skeletons, they don't have very good survivability. They will end up dying. Bosses will kill them, but that's why it's so easy. The only mana spender you really have is the summoned skeleton. As soon as one dies, or if they're at low life, you just pop one, and boom, you got 3 brand new ones with a high amount of health. And they scale with int, so the more int you have, which we have a lot, gives them more life. They also scale with character level, so the higher level you get, the more life they'll have as well. But again, that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It should survive patch 8.2 tomorrow. I don't see anything in it that's really going to affect it other than idle switching around a little bit, but you can work around that by putting in 1x2s with lots of health. That's all we're running on it. Hope you have a great patch launch tomorrow and really enjoy the new patch. And as always, stay safe, travelers.